tonight. So here are our bloomers as they appear on display. Now these bloomers were worn by Rosa Caldwell, and she was from Virginia. This is a picture of her from her yearbook in 1908. She was born in 1888. She was a teacher. We know that because we find her on the census records in 1910, both at her house, where she's listed as a teacher, and also in a boarding house that same year. So she's maybe moved or living in two places, kind of visiting one or the other, but in both she is listed as a teacher. Later on, she goes on to marry Mr. George Mann, and they move to Michigan, and she passes away in 1968. But we're going to focus on these bloomers and when she wore them, and that was when she was a student at the State Normal School in Farmville, Virginia. And we don't talk about normal schools anymore. It was just a title for the school where they taught young women how to go out and be teachers. That's what they did at this school, and that's of course exactly what Rosa did. And you see her highlighted there. This is from her junior class, and she's somewhere in that picture with the awesome bows and the hair, and that was the fashion. And I don't know what's going on with the young lady who's totally missing the camera. But yearbooks are always a lot of fun. So if you ever get a chance to go look at one, they're always kind of these in jokes. And this might be one here. There could be a legit fishing club at this school in 1908 that Rosa was a part of, and you see her name again listed here in the leap year fishing club. But when I looked at other yearbooks, I didn't find any other fishing clubs for other years. And this one says, you know, she's caught a man. So I'm not sure if this is a legit fishing club that Rosa was a part of or a fun one, but I'm just throwing that out there. Now, there were some legit athletic clubs going on at her school, and these are pictures from her yearbook when she was there and when she had her bloomers. So we got archery and tennis, and we have an illustration from the basketball team that all of these ladies participated in. And to do sports, they had to dress accordingly, and you see some of the different outfits they had for gym class. And that's probably when Rosa wore these bloomers, was in the regular school, not in so much in the club, because I don't see her listed in any of these other athletic clubs unless we count the fishing as athletic. But we do have an illustration from one of the classes, and this is a young lady playing basketball, and she has a pair of bloomers on. She's got the shirt. She's still rocking the bow because that was a thing back then, and she's got belts. So you can get an idea of what these bloomers looked like on a person. Now they're about 2 feet long, so they would have hit her about the knee or so, and she would have worn probably a blouse or like, you know, what it shows right there on there. These are cotton. They sometimes were made of wool. These do have elastic in them, and you might think elastic is modern. Well, they had elastic. Elastic has been around since like the 1820s, and was making an appearance in clothes, and it got cheaper and cheaper to do. More and more people wore them. Now, these bloomers were not handmade. They were made by Aldrich and Aldrich Athletic Company out of Chicago, which is kind of considered the first real sportswear company in American history. And they made all kinds of clothes for athletic enterprises. And this is one image from the 1920 catalog. You see there is a basketball hoop behind her, so maybe this was one of their basketball outfits or just a regular gym class outfit. But women's fashions weren't always geared for exercise and basketball and things. So if we think back to, say, this cartoon from about the 1860s, women's fashions weren't always so great at doing exercise or playing basketball or anything, and women certainly weren't in the 1850s generally. So this is a cartoon drawn by a man meant to mock women and their fashions. Of course, this is sort of ridiculous. This is not quite how big house skirts are. And when we talk about women and how they dressed in the past, it's important to remember that just like today, there are different classes wearing different things. So like these two photographs from 1910, we have these women with the big hats and the very tight clothes. These are not women working, and they are not dressed to work, and they would find it very difficult to do any menial tasks. That's sort of the point of it, is showing that they are not doing that. While these other women over here from the same time period are literally going to a job to work, and their clothes have to allow them to work. You see this a lot of time when actresses talk about corsets and how they can't breathe. Well, women didn't walk around every day not being able to breathe. So it's dressing for what you have to do. And if you were the majority of women at this time, you were working and you had chores to do. If you weren't in a mill working somewhere, you may be working on a farm, you were raising children, you were helping around the house, you had stuff to do. So you didn't dress like the fancy women over there. So when we're talking about this, it's important to remember those kind of things and how women dressed depended on a lot of different variables. But the idea of bloomers kind of takes off in the 1850s. And you see over there the bloomer polka. And this is kind of from some influence from Europe and England, and these idea of what are called Turkish pants. So these very wide leg pants, and these pants came all the way down to the ankle, and you still wore a skirt over them that came down below the knee. And this was the original fashion. And it was worn by regular women. You know, now these not just cartoons. So here's a picture of a woman legit wearing it, and she's rocking it. Now it's important also to remember that some women wearing this type of outfit were not necessarily out to like smash the patriarchy or anything. They were wearing these clothes because maybe they had something to do, they were exercising, that kind of thing. So it's important to remember that as well. Now this fashion look really took off in America when this lady started to wear them, Amelia Bloomer. And that's, of course, where they get her name. And she saw these and mentioned in the newspaper article, she herself was a newspaper editor and a suffragist at the time, and she thought these were fantastic to wear. So she started wearing them and became really famous for them. Another suffragist who wore them was Elizabeth Cady Stanton, whose cousin came over wearing them, and she thought this is wonderful, and so she started to wear it. But it got a lot of pushback, as you can imagine. So a lot of people thought this was women breaking free of traditional roles, and they did not want that to happen. So here you see this cartoon in 1852, and you have the woman here wearing these really awesome plaid pants that I would love to own, and she's yelling at someone, and then you have the man is wearing a dress and holding a crying baby. And in their opinion, this is the world upside down and is all terrible because a woman wore pants. So there was a lot of pushback on the bloomers. So the suffragists of the 1850s stopped wearing them because they really wanted to focus on women's rights and not pants. And they were really getting off course with having to defend this decision. So some women were happy to just keep wearing skirts the whole time, but the bloomers at this period kind of fall off of popularity. So, but something comes along in a few decades, and really bloomers kind of take off again, and that is the wild appeal of the bicycle. And when you come see the bloomers in the exhibit, you'll see in that case is a bicycle license tag from Lancaster, South Carolina, 1899, right there. And it's because bloomers, when Rose is wearing them, are really about exercise. And again, not so much about breaking free of anything, but women are exercising. And the idea of exercising takes off kind of in the 1830s with the idea of calisthenics, which is a word you may have heard. It's kind of like jazzercise, but even less sweaty. You didn't want to work up a sweat. This was about being genteel and just being healthy so that you can become the wife or mother or supporter that you were meant to be as a woman. So it was not about getting lean and fit and that kind of thing. It was about being healthy. But bicycles come along and it's a big craze, and women want to take a part, and they find that wearing skirts makes bicycling very hard. It's difficult to do. Now, the first real women who are famous for wearing bicycles are over in Europe and at the Hippodrome, which is like a big sort of stadium type thing. These women are wearing very tight pants as they're bicycling around, and it gets all kinds of attention. But that is not how most women dressed. It kind of comes out of France, where bicycling, in Paris, where bicycling is very fashionable. And as the fashion capital of the world, even then, people start making clothes for bicycle riding, just like horse riding had its own clothes. And that's kind of where it starts. You have women wearing riding habits and walking skirts, but some women take this idea of the bloomers again and start making these wonderful outfits to wear while they ride bicycles all around. It becomes very popular. But again, with the pushback, because some women, as you see here, really take it as, you know, I don't even need a bicycle. So this woman is looking at her friend who is wearing the pants and saying, you don't even own a bicycle. Why are you dressed like that? And she's saying, I own a sewing machine and I like dressing like this. So women start really taking off with this idea that it's okay to wear pants. And again, there's pushback, and this really charming little postcard has the poor man is washing clothes and the woman is, you know, got her leg up on the chair, she's smoking a cigarette, and she's got these really cool socks on. And again, and this is called the New Woman, which suffragettes and Elizabeth Cady Stanton, who we mentioned, and other suffragists really pushing this idea that women can make these kind of choices. And there's a famous saying that women suffragists were riding the bicycle to freedom. So that becomes an idea. So these bloomers and bicycles are really wrapped up in the idea of suffrage and the new woman, as they call it, trying to make her own way and have her voice be heard. Now, there are still plenty of women riding around in skirts. Here's a wonderful picture of some charming ladies riding skirts. So some people take a different tack, and women can make choices. And so instead of wearing pants, the design of the bicycle was changed. So the frame was lowered. You had chains and things being guarded with like a metal plate in front of it so your skirt wouldn't get caught in it. You have clasps that go and cinch your skirt around your ankles. You wear slightly shorter skirts, not, I mean, we're talking, you know, ankle high. So that idea and addressing the problem in a different way, because women have various ideas of what they want to wear, which kind of brings us up to now, because we're still having this discussion in some ways. So, you know, is it women wearing pantsuits or mini skirts? Is it playing with wearing a tie? So things like the women up at the top were all the U.S. senators in 1992, because one day when it was very cold, one of these women decided to show up in the Senate wearing pants, which was an unwritten rule that women didn't wear pants in the Senate up until 1993, when these women were like, I'm cold and I'm wearing pants. And it was a huge thing that it took that long for women to wear pants in the Senate. So we still kind of have these conversations around why we wear what we wear and how women can express themselves if they only want to wear skirts, if they only want to wear pants, and giving them the ability to have a voice of their own expressed through the way they dress. So that's it for our deep dive down into these awesome bloomers. You can come see them in person in our exhibit, and I hope you do. And so get out there, enjoy your beverage of your choice, or go out there and run, basketball, ride a bike, whatever you want to do. Make it a voice of your own. Thanks and good night.